I'm going to do this today. We're going to speak about hell. And I'm going to, let me just, and I'm going to be blunt throughout this entire thing. See, you're not going to do the work. You're going to believe that nonsense that you listen to the pastors spew out. And they don't even spew it out anymore because they understand it turns people off. But it is in what they believe. It is in their, I'm drawing a blank on the word, but it is what they believe. And you're just going to accept it. You're not going to do the work. So even though I've done the work numerous times before, because you have to understand something. I was a Christian for 38 years. When I realized that everything that came out of the pastor's mouth was off, I did the work. I didn't just leave. You don't leave something that you were in for 38 years without really digging in and making sure that that's not right. That's why I'm so set against this. But you're not going to do the work, and I understand that. You're going to go and listen to the guy, and you've got ideas in your head of what hell is. So I'm going to do it. Okay? In the Old Testament, the word Sheol is used 65 times. And Sheol, as I'm going to show you in just a minute, is in the Hebrew, Sheol is the Greek word Hades, which is in the New Testament. Well, in the Old Testament, Sheol is used 65 times, as I say. 3 times it's translated pit. I have no idea why they translated it pit, because there are other words for pit. Of the other 62 times, 31 times it's used as grave, and 31 times it's used as hell. I have no idea why they used both of them. And if you read each one of those 65 or 62 times, you'll see that every single time grave fits. Now, does it fit? Do the 31 times fit with your idea of hell? Nope, they don't. But if you understood that the true meaning of the word hell is unseen, then yeah, it would. It would fit. We're going to get into it. Okay, and I wrote down some notes, so I may be looking away. We're going to go through some things just to prove to you that in the Sheol is the Greek word Hades. Jesus quotes in Acts chapter 2, verse 27, Jesus quotes Psalm 16:10. He quotes David. Okay? All right. For thou wilt not be forsaking my soul in the unseen, Hades, nor wilt thou be giving the benign one to be acquainted with decay. That's a direct quote from Psalm 16:10. And it is Sheol in Psalm 16:10, and it is Hades in the New Testament, in Acts 2:27. Now, I'm going to show you some things. Where it was translated pit in Numbers chapter 16. And I've got this Let's see. Kind of more marked here, but number 16, 29 through 33. This is where Moses is explaining to the sons of Korah that, I'll show you. Should these die, he's telling the group, should these die the common death of all humanity, and should the visitation of all humanity be visited on them, then Yahweh has not sent me. Yet should Yahweh create an unprecedented creation, so that the ground opens wide its mouth, swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they descend alive to the unseen. In the King James, that word is pit. Then you will know that these mortals have spurned Yahweh. Okay? Let's see. Job, chapter 17. Oh. Sorry, got it marked here. Maybe I didn't do Job. That's okay. Because we're going to go on to talk about, sorry, got my notes kind of spread out here. Oh, here's Psalm 16:10. For you shall not forsake my soul in the unseen. You shall not allow your benign one to see corruption. See, I'm reading that out of the Concordant Literal, and you can see it's exactly the same. The word Sheol is translated unseen, could also be translated grave, or in the New Testament, it's the word hell. Okay? Now, again, 62 times that word is used. 65, 3 pit, 31 hell, 31 grave. It should be translated grave or unseen. The reason that you think of hell is because mythology, and even Strong's, Dr. Strong's in the Strong's Concordance, fell into this trap a little bit. And if you go look up those words in the Concordance, go to the numbers and look them up, you'll see that Dr. Strong's fell for the mythology. But I'm going to show you a couple of more things about this. Okay? And let's see. This is Psalm 139:8. If I should climb to the heavens, you are there. And should I make my birth in the unseen, behold, you are there. Okay? I'm going to show you something that I don't know how your Christian preacher can say what he says and how you can believe all of that nonsense. But this is what in the Old Testament, the Israelites, primarily the house of Judah, because this is Jeremiah talking, the house of Judah, they were sacrificing their children to the god Moloch. And Moloch was a bull. And it was a metal bull, and they had a door on the side which would open up and you could lay things on the belly, in the belly, and they had a fire coming up under the bottom. Okay? and they would sacrifice their children for future blessings to this god. They would put their children in there, open the door, put their children in there, and let the fires consume them from underneath. They would be inside the hot metal, and the fires would burn them, torture them. Okay? I want you to get that mental image. Okay, here's God. This is Jeremiah 19. Because they have forsaken me and are making this place foreign and are fuming incense in it to other Elohim, that's other gods, that they have not known, they or their fathers or the kings of Judah, and they have filled this place with the blood of innocents. And that's INNOCENTS, innocent people. And because they have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons with fire as scent offerings to Baal, it's also known as Moloch in Scripture, which I did not instruct. Now get this is God saying, which I did not instruct, nor even speak of, nor did it come upon my heart. Therefore, behold, the days are coming, averring is Yahweh, when this place shall no longer be called Topheth, or the ravine of the son of Hinnom, but rather the ravine of killing. So what he's saying here is this act that they're doing, what they're doing, didn't even come into his mind. He certainly didn't instruct them to do that. But I would say to your God, Christian, because it's not my God. The God you talk about is not the God I know. Your God is not God. But I would say to your God, well, that's a lie. You're saying that this kind of thing didn't come into your heart or mind? Really? Because we know you've built a torture pit called hell that you're going to torture. Even half of your creation would be terrible, but you're going to torture even more than that. And what's in your heart and mind, God of Christianity, is way worse than this. This is horrific on a level that's unheard of. Unheard of. But what you've got planned, God of Christianity, is 1,000,000 times worse than this. Because this, it lasts 10 or 20 minutes. Yours is going to last 1,000,000,000,000 years. So why are you saying, God of Christianity, that it never crossed your mind? That's a silly thought. It is silly. Now, I'm going to read one more thing, because Matthew 25:46, pastors use that all the time to show you how long this whole thing is going to last. Okay. But this is the concordant, and this is the proper translation of this. Inasmuch as you do it not to me, of these the least, neither do you it to me. And these shall be coming away into chastening aeonian, yet the just unto life aeonian. The life of the ages. God is dealing with time in ages, and his plan is being accomplished in ages. Okay? Now, there's much more. If I did an actual thing on this, it would take an hour, at least. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to mock your teaching of hell. And you have to understand something. I was you for 38 years. I taught all this nonsense. And then God invaded my life. And I can promise you this. I do not worship the God of Christianity, and the true God is not the God of Christianity. And I'll say this. I go by, you have no idea. When I go by churches on Sunday, I am so thankful that I am not there. Wow, I can't even describe it. And I feel sorry for those people. I'm like, wow. And then I got to think about how many of my family is actually still in that system. But it is what it is. But here's what I would say to you. What benefit is it for me? I'm not trying to benefit from this. I have no benefit. I'm just telling you the truth. What is the benefit of the Catholic Church when they started the doctrine of hell? Because they followed the teachings of Jerome. What? Yeah, it keeps their money coming in. Because you're fearful of God. You got to try to do all these things to please God. See, they can't afford to have people like me that God has actually dealt with and brought out of all that. Because there'd be nobody there. There'd be no money to keep the lights on. And I'm going to be very blunt, and I've been blunt in other. The God you talk about is not the God I talk about. The God that comes out of your pastor's mouth, that's not the God I'm talking about. At all. To believe in hell, eternal torment, and all that, you don't understand God. You don't understand his nature or his character or his plan, his purpose. You don't understand God at all. Therefore, you're an unbeliever. You're an unbeliever. You're religious as all get out, but you're an unbeliever. Because God is not like what you describe. Oh, and I'm going to be, I don't care how many Sundays you sit there and you sing worship songs and you put your hands up and proclaim God. You're not talking about God. You're talking about the God of Christianity, which is a schizophrenic fool. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. He's a schizophrenic fool. He doesn't know whether to love you or hate you, bless you or curse you, do good to you or punish you. He doesn't know whether you need to live by law or by grace. He doesn't know whether he wants to take you to heaven or send you to hell. He's the builder who did not count the cost. And if your preacher is to be believed, he is the biggest sinner in the history of everything, because he intended for this to happen and this happened. He missed the mark. I'm just telling you, the God you talk about is not the God I talk about. That's why you don't talk about God the same way I do. You give blurbs to him, but you don't. It's not the same God. Because if you're teaching that the children, the house of Judah, sacrificed their children to the god Moloch, and you think your God is going to do 1,000,000 times worse than that, you and me, we're not talking about the same God. You go do the study. There's no chance. There's no chance that when you really do the study, that you'll ever believe that the God you talk about now is God. And again, y'all don't talk about that anymore very much, but it's still there. It's still there. But no. Do the work. Do the work. And I do indeed pray for my family to come to an understanding of the true God. What he's really like. What his nature is really like. What his character is really like. Who he really is. And what glorious plan that he has for humanity across the ages. I love you all.